here I'm looking at the Disc Tube Culture from Arturia. It's part of the new Arturia V collection, in that we also get the Disc Op Amp 21, which is based on the Sons Amp 21 or the Sons Amp, a mellow tape, which is quite nice. I'll play all these in a bit, but really I'm going to concentrate on the Culture Vulture today. We also get this gorgeous granular effect, this EFX Fragments. Very nice. But let's take a look at the Culture Vulture emulation for now. It's called the Disc Tube Culture. It's based on the Thermionic Culture Vulture. I've got the Thermionic Culture Vulture here in the studio. The original one, this is the black one on the top here. The actual software is based on the Ultra Vulture, which is a bit more complex or a bit more refined. It's got a couple of extra bits in it, so they're not going to be identical, but I thought it'd be really nice to see if the software actually matches, or at least behaves in a similar way, gives similar tones, does a similar thing in the studio. So could use this rather than the Culture Vulture to get similar tones effectively. And just to show you what it is, very, very briefly, got a drive circuit, a bias circuit. We've got 3 different types of valves. It's an all valve circuitry in the original. We've got triode, then we've got pentode 1, pentode 2 and pentode 3. On mine I've just got pentode 1 and pentode 2. Output, and then this additional mix knob here. Plus we've got some extras in the advanced section, and these are absolutely brilliant, and I'll come on to why in a minute. But just to show you sort of what the whole thing about the Culture Vulture is, and it all revolves around this bias knob here. Now if I just bring in a sine wave, we'll turn the drive down, bring the drive up, you can see and you can hear all those additional harmonics coming in. Let's turn the reverb off. And what the bias does is it changes those harmonics by starving the circuit of current. So I've turned it all the way up, they've dropped. And when you turn it all the way down, there's lots more. So you get all sorts of different tones, and the different valves obviously react in different ways. So you can hear it really disappear in there. And P3 is much more extreme. But that only tells half the story, because as you starve the circuit, you only get different parts or different bits of the signal coming through, and I'll show that really quickly here with a drum loop. So let's put it onto pentode or triode. Sort of a normal sort of sound. The bias around 5 or 6 here, at about 0.3 on this meter, gives you a sort of nice tape warming effect. Really gentle, subtle harmonics. So much more extreme. On the unit itself, on the original, you've got this overdrive button. You don't have that overdrive on the software, so it's difficult to match things up. And if you look at when I flick the overdrive, the bias is changing slightly. So everything's really dynamic on these things, non-linear, and interacts with each other in really different ways. So let's just carry on here, and let's just loop that beat a bit better, put it at the right tempo, 100. And there you go, that's the Culture Vulture effect. Completely disappear in there. So all sorts of sonic madness. But of course, when you bring this in with the mix knob, which the original doesn't have, and I really, really wish the original did have it, because it brings the whole thing to life. all sorts of lovely weird compression style effects. We've also got EQ boosts on air, which is higher frequencies, and presence, which is sort of high mids. In fact, I'll show that using using the sine. Turn the bias down again. It's presence, and actually on air you can't see much because the frequencies are higher. Let's go to this really high pitched sine, so just watch your ears. So presence is hitting the things sort of between 6 and 8, and air is making them higher over 10 by the looks of things. So down to these more advanced features, and I think this is where this whole thing really comes to life. We've got an input module and an output module. So this is like an input EQ. We've got a low pass or a high pass and a low pass, and this is what's going into the distortion circuit. And obviously we've got the mix on full here, so bring in some of the dry signal. And all of a sudden we've got a really cool sort of tone manipulation tool. We've got stereo, mid and sides, so I'm affecting just the sides here. Add some compression to that. So lots of really nice little subtle things you can do. Let's try that on the mid. Again, I'm going to the extremes here to demo what it does, but I really think this just opens the whole thing up. Then we've got the output module, so we can put, let's just turn this off. Double click, turn everything off. And turning this on, we're just listening to what's coming back from the distortion, and then EQing that. So we've got everything going into the distortion. But all we can hear coming out of the distortion is what's coming out of this bandpass filter. And that's got a tilt on it as well. I think this is all really, really cool, to be honest. That's basically what it does. Lots of tone shaping, tone manipulation, taking something and making it groove in a completely different way. Really great on beats. Let's have a listen to it on a guitar, and let's put it around here. Something sensible. Turn all this off. Well, that was quite nice, that wasn't it? It had a sort of really lo-fi quality to it. So that's the software. Let's have a listen to the hardware. I've put similar settings on this, you can see here. Although the drive, you've got to be careful with it because obviously you've got the overdrive on and off. So 0 to 11 doesn't respond to 0 to 11 on the drive or 1 to 11 on this. And obviously another reason why the Culture Vulture is so good is because everything goes up to 11, which is 1 better than 10, which is what most things do. So it's 1 better than most things already. It's really difficult to get the levels right. Don't forget, this is all being done internally on the computer, whereas the hardware is going through, it's coming out through an Apollo UAD, then it's going, is it going into the Culture Vulture from there, then it's coming back through Neve 8816 and back into the Apollo or something like that. So trying to get the levels exactly right is just a nightmare, but you get the idea. Does it do similar things? Yes, it does. Let's try it on a pentode. Or let's try it a little bit subtler actually. Let's dial that down and let's take the overdrive off on the Culture Vulture, turn the drive down a bit. Hear what we've got on the hardware. The levels all over the place. Really nice little bit. Just making it sound that little bit better. Without. Very subtle that, isn't it? Reducing the bias so that we get a little bit more harmonics in there. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's see if we can do that really nice and subtle on the software. Yeah, we can. Try and dial it in a little bit more precisely. You see me doing this live here. I've not practiced this actually. Lovely. Although I've got one on the pentode and one on the triode. It shows how subtle things can be. That's the pentode then, and that's, you can hear that's a lot more aggressive than the triode. So let's just pump the drive up a little bit more on the plug-in. Maybe a little bit brighter on the plug-in, but not bad. Let's try it on the loop. Yeah, getting a bit more brightness, a bit more presence through on the plug-in. Don't forget the plug-in is based on a better version of the hardware. So there are slight differences there. In fact, we can show you what those are using the sine waves and the EQs, but I have to stress that on my hardware unit, channel 1 and channel 2 are different. And when I got it, I did get in touch with Thermionic and they said, well, it's not a stereo unit, is it? And it's got like hundreds of valves in it, so what do you expect? And this was before they brought out the mastering version, so I don't expect everything to be identical. But let's see what we can do here. Let's go back to the triode, just to sort of, as a baseline basically, put the bias on around 6 and the drive on overdrive and just whack it all the way up for now. Turn it down so I don't hurt my ears. See what we get. So do the same on, you can hear the hum there from the hardware, unless I've edited it out. So drive all the way up, bias about 0. Getting a lot more buzz from one than the other, and we're getting a lot more hum from one than the other. Let's go to P2. It's more similar, isn't it? Let's listen to one at a time. Let's put this back in the center. Over on the hardware. So they do sound different, and I don't know if that's because mine's the black version, not the purple version, but they do similar things. So let's put it back on the beat and just try and strangle that beat on the hardware. So that sounds similar to what we were getting earlier when we were doing it on the plugin. Let's do it again on the plugin. Let's put the drive about there-ish. That's what it is on the hardware. Bias on full on P1. That's in stereo actually. It's something to consider. I've got the hardware just in mono. So again, doing similar stuff, doing Culture Vulture style things. But not identical to mine at least. But a lot less hummy. You can hear the hum coming through on mine, can't you? Which is a real pain, and I've actually bought myself, because I've been doing this review and noticed it, a hum canceller. I wonder if that does anything. Let's plug it in. And here it is with the hum canceller plugged in, and it makes absolutely no difference. Obviously not really intended for this use. So levels are hugely important. What comes out of it is really dependent on the level going in. So if I play that beat again on the software and turn up the gain, that's having an effect on the current going into the circuits. So if I match everything up and the bias looks the same, so if the bias on the hardware and the software is both on 0.3, for example, it really depends on what's going in, on how much it changes due to the bias, due to the knobs, due to the drive. And if I try something similar on the hardware, change the levels with this knob here. So this is the level going into the hardware. Higher it goes, the more it changes that current. Yeah, so there we have it, the disc tube culture from Arturia. I would say it's very similar to the Culture Vulture. It's not identical to mine, but then again, it's not modelled on the same version as mine. But you do get the same sort of things. You get this bias, you get lovely drive, you can get those lovely subtle distortions, and the addition of all these little, these advanced options really do make it into something else. And while we're here, let's take a look at what else we get. Here I've got the Whirly V, and I'm going to add some of the Culture Vulture. And you can hear there, I'm using a little bit of the output. Let's just add a little bit more bass to that. That's nice. Turn it off. Maybe a little bit too bandwidthy, maybe a bit too much mid there, but get the idea. And let's add this tape mellow. This is lovely, this. Set the flutter down, turn it on. It's got its own drive in there as well. This flutter's great. Turned into a chilled out Instagram thing, hasn't it? And then we've got this EFX Fragments. That's a granular effect, so it's taking what's coming out of the whirly and the tape and the distortion. Taking some of that, and it's chopping upwards a little bit, playing some forwards, some backwards, repitching some. And there's tons to play with in this. That'll be a whole extra review, I think, on its own, but just thought I'd pull it up. There you go, the Arturia EFX Collection V3 or whatever it's called, and for me it was a €99 upgrade because I had version 2. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, think about subscribing, ring the bell, join me on Patreon, all that sort of stuff. It's really good for people to help support the channel so I can do more videos like this. So I will see you next time.